I wanted to tell you a little bit a story about the power of the community, and in particular about how we ended up understanding a little bit more about the video players implementation of CMCD in a month of work. And this means there were some different implementations between Jaka and Dash, and we ended up reporting some bugs for them. And that's what I wanted to talk about. But first, we need to talk about how this happened. Earlier this year, we hosted our second iteration of the Montevideo Summer Camp. And our motto was to connect through the power of collaboration. And if you were here last year, we pitched about this conference, inviting all of you video developers to get away from winter and spend summer at Uruguay. And the idea was, we ended up having two different sets for it, like a specific cultural exchange. Hey, let's go to the beach, meet our offices, meet our culture, and get away from winter. And as our motto was to do it through the power of collaboration, we said, hey, let's try and find something we can do to build together. So we designed like a coding experience. So I'm going to talk about a little bit more on that. For the cultural exchange, it was really a success. We had a lot of fun. A couple of developers came to Uruguay, and yeah, we had fun. We visited the city. We enjoyed summer, and we had tango. Enjoyed a little bit of our carnival. But that's probably what you're most interested in, is in the coding experience part. So we asked the community, hey, what can we build in this iteration of our summer camp? And we got two really great ideas, one from Will, thank you, Will, that was build a conformance checking tool and service for CMCD, and that's going to be my main focus on this talk. And then from Marco to build an open source hybrid meetup platform. So to get into it, I'm not really going to talk about what CMCD is. If you don't know, you can check Will Law's talk that he did at Demuxed last year. I think it was called Clever Monkeys Communicating Discreetly. That explains it a lot better. So CMCD had some like adoption barriers to implement in the player. Like, how are you really gonna test what you're sending? And there was no tool to address that. And since there are a lot of discussions on CMCD2 now, this also gets a little bit trickier. We're going to support both of them. How are you going to check if what you're sending of the changes that you're doing are getting handled correctly? So we took that idea and we had a design meeting with our head of R&D, Nicolas, to try and understand what that looked like, right? So we were going to start by our like a CMCD API or NPM library, just that with the basic stuff that could take care of validating the spec against your request. And then we could think about a lot more what to add around it. Like we could try a web browser that has different players that can check how those players behave. And we could definitely put that in a database because we like to take a look at the data and see what the hell's going on. But we could take it a little bit further and maybe do an extractor, because maybe you don't want to actually take your mobile application apart to try and put this validator in your flow. So maybe just an extractor that could get all that CMCD data that you're sending, validate it, and keep it to try and understand what's going on. So we had our design and requirements done. We did a little bit of team setup. We find the right people that wanted to work on this. And we wanted to make sure we had like an open methodology. And I wanted to talk about a little bit this more in depth, because this was an open source project, but we also wanted to take it a little bit further. We defined 1-week sprints because we were trying to get this work done in a month. We defined 1-week sprints, planning on Mondays, demos on Fridays. And we also open source everything else. Like our Jira board was open source. Everyone could take a look at it, could comment, could add their ideas on it. And we also had like our daily Scrum meetings, our planning meetings, demos, retrospectives, all open and public for everyone on our Discord server. So after everything was done and the team had all the tools, they got to work. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about the results, because this is what ended up being really interesting. I'm going to talk about the summer camp results first, and then go through everything that we built for this. In particular, we were able to actually release, like in almost a month of work, I think it was 3 weeks, we ended up releasing our NPM library that you could send it a URL with the CMCD data, and it would tell you if it was OK on the spec or if it had something that was wrong. So since that was great, and there was a lot of involvement from people in the community, people joined our plannings and were thinking of how they could incorporate this into their normal workflows, this started to get some traction. So we decided to keep building on that initial architecture I just showed you and try to see what else we could keep working on. So we ended up building that web validator I was telling you about. You could pick from a bunch of different players: Shaka player, HLS, Video.js, I will talk about that a little bit later, Dash.js, and the BitMoving player. You just pick your player, load in your asset, or pick from a preset of assets we added there, and you would get a list of all the CMCD requests that were being sent, and if they were validated through the spec, and if not, or if you wanted to take a little bit deep information into any of those, you could just click and see all the CMCD data that was being actually sent. Then we moved to how we're going to build an extractor for it. So it basically is a server that put in, you can put in your asset, and it generates you a URL that you could use to playback, and that will extract all your CMCD data and put it in a database. And if you can put it in a database, you can also graph it and see what actually is going on, and you can compare the results that you get from different players, maybe playing the same asset. This is all open source, and we also added a few preloaded graphs in Kibana that you can use, or you could just go ahead and make your own. As I was saying, Video.js is supported. At the time we started this, Video.js did not send the CMCD data, so we worked on building a CMCD plugin for Video.js that supported that, and we added into it. And we also collaborated with SVTA University, and we created a course for CMCD that is public, that it will guide you through understanding what it is, how to use it, and how to make sure that your implementation is up to the spec using the validator. So I talked about all the results, and I think we sort of built quite a lot. But I also wanted to talk about the impact. And I'm going to talk about the internal impact first, because now we had a team that really understood the spec, that was also able to interact a lot with the community. They were forced to talk with you guys and understand why did you make some choices on your players, or why did you make that choice for implementing CMCD. And if you were here in Demuxed last year, we gave a talk about how are we training the next generation of video developers. So this is actually quite a big deal for us. But also, what about the beyond Qualabs, right? What about the external impact? And we ended up, like I said at the beginning, we ended up reporting bugs in Shaka and Dash.js. And the guys at BitMoving told us that they incorporated this validator in the flow. In Shaka and Dash.js, there were some requests that were not sending the right data. And actually, that triggered a lot of conversations for the CMCD version 2. There were some features. I mean, we got the CMCD standard featured in the CMCD page. And we also proposed a few issues about some things that were not quite clear for the developers to get in there. Like should you have CMCD in all the request types, like in the get, definitely, but in head and options, do we actually need any CMCD information? And I'm sorry, I'm going to just give you questions. So I think that it's going to help or work with the CMCD committee that's going on. Like buffer length should be 0. MTP should be 0. We know it's unknown at the start, but does 0 mean unknown? And we found that there were a lot of like different interpretations of that. Same with deadline and RTP. Should we send 0 or should we not? Or are we just going to be sending things that the CDN is going to be forced to ignore because we have different interpretations of it? So yeah, I wanted to share this story with you because this has been like a rough year for this industry. And this project started on a technical need from the community, and I believe that it's making our community better and our lives a little bit easier by helping us test these kinds of things. We will be kicking up our next iteration of Summer Camp, and we really want to hear your ideas on what could we build. Like if you could pick one tool to build that will make your life easier as a developer, what would that be? So I would be really interested to have those discussions in our breaks. I strongly believe that if we leverage the power of this community, we can help each other get through these hard times. Thank you.